Welcome to Vintage SF, a special Vintage SF. I'm joined today by Whitney of Secret Sauce of Storycraft, and there's a special reason that she's here. I've been celebrating my third anniversary for the channel, and it just so happens it coincided with a gift from Whitney. Now, some of you may have seen the TV show Shrinking with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford, among others. I was thinking about another character named Liz in there. And we see her here. She polishes rocks, and she can be a difficult character sometimes. But what she does is she gives rocks to people that she has in her circle of trust. And I thought of that when Whitney said, "I'd like to send you a box of books." And maybe Whitney, you can explain how you send boxes of books to people.
I mean, there's not a secret process or anything. I just, I started getting to know a lot of booktubers. And I feel like once you really start getting to know somebody, it's only more fun to share with them a box of books. Then you're like, I think these are books that you will like. A lot of people really enjoy collecting books. But my passion is to try to find your favorite books. That's something that I think is super fun for me. So it's something that I do with a lot of my friends. Once I feel like I have some pretty good, strong guesses of what they would like, and then I will send this box. And it's, I don't know, accidentally become a tradition, I suppose.
And so now I've joined her circle of trust for those boxes, and I really appreciate it. Yeah. And maybe I'll let you start here, perhaps you, in terms of your process of trying to figure out potentially what you would like to send me. And then I will have a visual that we'll put up in a few moments of the ones that she sent, and we'll start talking about them. So this process.
Okay, so if you want to know like more in detail about this, I actually did a video where I like documented the entire process for one of my friends, Rachel from the Shades of Orange.
Awesome channel.
I kind
of, you know what, we'll find the link to it and put it below.
Okay, yeah, I can send you that. Yeah. But I like to, when people usually recommend people books, as a booktuber or just like a person in a library that you meet, or a bookstore person, a lot of times people recommend their favorites. And I appreciate that because they want to share something that they love with another person. That's kind of the joy of reading sometimes. But when I'm recommending like a specific person a book, I'm thinking not just about what I would enjoy, but also about your specific taste. Okay. Because, you know, I do think that sometimes people forget that tastes are going to be different. So I know people who like really love the logic and science in science fiction, and a lot of their friends will recommend them fantasy books. And you see how some fantasy books have that logic, magical system behind them, but some of them are just like complete, and some even the science fiction books are just like a little bit more literary or a little bit more like mythical, I would say, without that logical explanation behind it. So you don't recommend those books to those people because no matter what, they're not going to like it. So I try really hard to take into account your taste along with already what you own, which by the way is hard, Richard. You own way too many books. And I'm trying to like secretly watch all of your library videos to try to figure out which books you own. And a lot of the books that I wanted to send are books that you already own but haven't read, including one that we talked about recently, which was Dawn. So we'll have to chat a little bit about that one later if you don't mind.
Yeah, because I have read it, and there was a video out on it, and that's definitely one that you and some others have recommended I read. And I accept recommendations. I definitely do follow up on some.
Yes. So one of the biggest, hardest parts is to, especially for you, is to find a book that you didn't already own, which was hard. And then books that you also haven't yourself read. And you've been reading science fiction a lot longer than I have. And I think you have a lot more of an extensive vintage collection than I do. So usually when I send people books, I can always secretly send them 1 or 2 sci-fi classics that they probably haven't read or heard of. But with you, it was the opposite. I had to send mostly modern books because you have read almost all of the books that I wanted to send.
Well, I think when I was looking through the books here, the oldest publication date was 2006.
Right.
So the last 20 years. And this is, of course, a blind spot of mine. So this is where I'm very much welcome to find great books in these years.
Well, I had a rule for myself that it had to be after, like 1990s or after, because you own so many of the other books that I would have already sent. So that was one of the rules. I also wanted to make sure that I could find a good copy of the book. And as you're going to see shortly, not all the books are in perfect mint quality condition, but some of them, like were library books or torn pages or spilt on or highlighted. And I feel like that kind of ruins some of the experience for you. So we also had a little bit of trouble because once I put together these lists, I have to try to not overwhelm the person I'm sending the book to. And sometimes I've had people be like, oh yeah, you can send me a couple books. And they thought I was going to send them like 3. And I sent them like 20. So I have a hard time telling myself no. And I'm like, oh, they'll like this one and this one and this one. So I tried to limit it down to 10 or less, which we did get to. Although my soul hurts a little bit because there's quite a few books on the list that I did not send. And we could talk about some of those. But so I didn't want to overwhelm. We have to cover books that you don't own. We're doing more modern ones. And then I'm trying to stick to your taste. So I wrote down a couple of notes for myself, which I'd like to share.
Okay.
So the first thing that we have to talk about is John Wyndham. Richard and I like kind of bonded over our mutual love for John Wyndham. There might be some nostalgia love there, but he really is such a fantastic writer in terms of the old vintage style. He has kind of this perfectly slow pace that builds on you until you're like suddenly kind of surprised by the ending. And he has so many big ideas kind of like woven subtly throughout his books that I had to keep in mind that if I can find a John Wyndham-like story, that might be something that you would enjoy. Don't worry, though. No one's like John Wyndham, exactly. So I also tried to keep into account that there are some books that I loved that you didn't, like An Anthem by Neil Stephenson. In particular, I tried to suss out from you when we were talking why you didn't like this one. And the best answer I got was that there were so many words that he invented that you were spending a lot of time looking up the words in the glossary instead of enjoying the story. And so I'm trying to kind of stay away from that a little bit. I have one book that might be a scary close to that, so we'll have to see. But that is something that I wanted to kind of like stay away from if it was too overly complex of a world building, that kind of thing. And you also mentioned no satire, which is hard because I love some satire. You also mentioned that you don't just like entertainments, authors that are derivative of themselves, or authors that maybe are just there for a thriller and they don't have a question or an idea underneath the story is something that I tried to stay away from. And I think you gave me a couple of examples, Richard. Murderbot was one of them, which is definitely a much beloved series, but I understand it is somewhat derivative of itself, if you will. And then also Bobaverse books, which are fun and interesting, but if they're not your style and they're not your humor, I could understand why you wouldn't get along with them.
I think you so far are right on in some of the things that you're saying there.
Yep. You also had on here no psychedelic weirdness, which definitely cut Philip K. Dick out.
Well, you know what? I have to say, I may have said that, but I'm very open and love looking at some of the new wave material that's out there. And so Philip K. Dick, I have a collection of him over here that I will definitely be getting to.
Okay. Well, we'll
Yeah.
have to keep that in mind for our future buddy reads.
Sure.
So the last part of this was the limitations that I had from Canada's post office problems. There was like a little bit of a strike, and then we also had some book distribution issues, as well as this Trump tariff thing where it was almost impossible to get certain books from certain publishers sent to Canada. And like even to the point where I was going to have to go out and buy them and I was going to ship it to you. And my post office said, no, we don't ship to Canada right now.
That's amazing. I can't believe it.
I'm like very stunned by this.
Yeah.
So there were several books on the list that you aren't going to get to see because sadly we ran into some problems.
Sign of this times.
So I thought I could mention a couple of the books that I didn't send you either because you own or there were problems for. And I also wanted to go over some, I wanted to hit variety. I didn't want to hit the same style book every time.
Right.
So are you okay with that?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so we already mentioned Dawn, which is a book that you own by Octavia Butler. I'm a huge champion of this book, and it is considered vintage, although some people consider it modern.
I think it's 1984, if I remember right, or 86, somewhere in there.
Late, very late 80s. It's like right on the line of how you define what's modern and what's vintage, I suppose.
You know what? It's a moving target. I usually say about 30 to 35 years old. At that point, it starts to be vintage. So it's definitely in there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that one is definitely one that I'm so glad you read because I think it's very accessible, but it has these deeper themes in a kind of a very in your face kind of way, but then they're also so subtle too. They're very layered. There's lots of questions, lots of heavy themes, and they can be interpreted in multiple ways, which is something that I think John Wyndham does well, that I think Octavia Butler and him have at least slightly similar. Now, don't get me wrong, very different topics, very different writers, but I could probably say that descriptor for both of them. I also wanted to include one of my vintage favorites, which I discovered you owned in one of your videos, which was James Hogan's Inherit the Stars. I
would love to read that with you someday.
I love that.
The three or the four of them that there are.
Yeah, so 3 of them are good. We ignore the 4th. We pretend that one doesn't.
That's okay. Good. That's exactly what I would say too. To me, it's a trilogy. I don't think they're of the 4th one.
That's right. It's like Indiana Jones. We don't talk about the 4th one. we don't talk about it. But yeah.
Or the 5th. Or the 6th, whatever they're up to now.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Inherit the Stars is a hard sci-fi, but it's definitely vintage. But you already own it. So
yep. I read it way back when it first came out, actually. I was one of those, I was a teenager or just early 20s. And I just remember the concept. Well, the picture on the cover blew my mind. And then the concepts within also blew my mind. And it was a very great idea read.
It really was. And it doesn't have to be super believable to be something that I thought was just clever. It was just clever. I loved it. I can't wait to read some more James Hogan, to be honest.
Yeah. I always think of that as one of my best covers that would pull a reader into wanting to buy a book where there's a skeleton on the moon. You know what? I think I can grab it.
Okay.
Let's see here. We can cut a little bit about that out, but here we go. I can make myself a little bit bigger as well.
Yeah.
So the mystery of why is there a skeleton on the moon and it's a different uniform than the other people there? A novel about man's place in the universe, and it truly is very, very interesting. I recommend it. If you like idea novels, definitely this is a great one.
Yes. It definitely helped me understand that I am a very ideas-based reader. So another one that you owned, and that this will be the last one, was Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor.
Haven't read it yet.
Yep.
Looking forward to it.
So I couldn't give it to you. So
Yeah.
That one is also, in my opinion, a big ideas book. However,
Is that his debut novel?
it is his debut novel.
Yeah.
It has faded a little bit over the years that I have read it, although I still remember certain scenes and things. I really liked that it did both First Contact, and it also talks about the role of AI and some of the problems with humanity, because we cover three big issues that run throughout the story, and
I might have that one here too.
they kind of all come together.
Let's see if I have it within. Nope, I do not have it within easy reach. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. I think a lot of people know that novel because it came out recently, and a lot of people did talk about it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I found it to be a sad Hugo snub, to be honest.
And that's one of your latest videos was the Wugos,
I
Whitney's
know.
Hugos, where she talks about the books she thinks should have won the Hugos. So you can go watch that on her channel.
Yeah, that was very fun. So let's talk about the books that I did actually send you, if you would like
Should I pull those up?
Yeah.
So these are just in size. There's no order here in terms of how I have this picture.
Right. Well, I think that's a great visual, like very nice. So
yeah. So we got 9 books here. I would say Rainbow's Edge or Rainbow's End, I believe, is the oldest one. It is a Hugo winner.
Is it older than Remnant Population?
Remnant Pop. Let me take a look. You might be right, actually. You probably are. No, yeah. Remnant Population is 1996. So that's 10 years before Rainbow's End.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe I'll just read the titles here for people just to Werner Vinge. A lot of people know him from his novels in the 90s. What were those novels names again?
Fire Upon the Deep.
Fire Upon the Deep.
And Deepness in the Sky.
That's right. I think that one came about 2000. The Quantum Thief by Hanu Rajani.
I believe.
Rajimi.
I'm not perfect on it, but I do believe it is Norwegian, I want to say, Swedish.
Okay.
Finnish, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay. We'll say Nordic. The Rig by Roger Levy, Adrian Tchaikovsky, yes.
Tchaikovsky.
Shroud, that just came out last year. Generation Ship by Michael Mamet. Elizabeth Moon. I've read some of her books from the 80s. She's been around for quite a while. Remnant Population. In fact, this looks to me to be a skinny book of hers. I think that some of her books used to be quite big. China Mayville, Embassy Town. Haven't read China. A Memory Called Empire, Arcady Martine. This one won the Hugo Award as well, right? For 2020 or 2021?
Yep, it did. I believe it was 2020. Yep.
And Daniel Suarez, Delta V. All right. Did you want to talk about these, or should we start to talk about which ones you think I'd like or why, or what do you think I should do in terms of which books I should read first? I have some stacks here of books that I think I might read first. And then in books that might seem a little daunting. And I have to decide if I'm ready to go for it with those books.
Well, so I want to talk a little bit about why I picked the books, maybe. And then I can kind of, like, instead of it's just being a numbered thing, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have like kind of a tiers. I have a tier of, I think Richard will like.
That's a good idea.
A tier of, these are the riskiest books I sent you, and then a tier of middle of the road, not sure kind of story.
Well, how about I'll just show the books as you start to talk about them.
Okay, well, I think of all of the books that I sent you, let's talk about the risky ones, because those are always the fun ones. So
we'll see if they're the ones I thought were risky too.
Okay, well, the first one that I think is going to be risky, I'm going to go with The Quantum Thief by Hanu Rajimi.
It's in my risky pile.
Yep. This is a hard science fiction, and this cover is, by the way, the international version. There is a different cover for the US and for the EU, and then they have a totally different cover for the UK. And this is the first of a trilogy. It's a hard sci-fi, and it is, how do we say, doesn't hold your hand. There's no spoon feeding involved in this novel. It is one that I think is a modern, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say a modern classic, but I feel like it has some really big ideas that no one else has done before in this way. And I thought it was going to be something I really wanted to try to send you that maybe you wouldn't have picked up on your own, but it is a little touch close to an anthem in that there's no glossary, but there are lots of big words that you're not going to know what's happening, and you have to just trust the process and keep reading to find out.
But I thought about this book when I
Mhm.
saw it and started looking at it and just checking out a couple things online. I thought, this might be a bit like Neuromancer in terms of diving into something where you're not really quite sure what's going on, and just having, like you said, to trust that you will catch up. It's almost like, I remember in high school reading Shakespeare and you just go, I'm never going to understand this. And then as you kept reading it, you started to get it. You got into the flow of the language and parsing what they were saying.
It's interesting that you say that, because I am a person who didn't love Neuromancer, but I
Mm.
did like Quantum Thief. And I don't know if that means I should reread Neuromancer.
It's definitely a book I want to
Mhm.
reread someday.
Mhm.
And I want to, William Gibson, I find challenging, but challenging in a way that I really appreciate.
Well, one of
I
the
hope I
things,
do the same for Rajanimi.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a book that would benefit from a reread if that's your vibe. I do think that there's lots of little tiny details that you could get the second or the third time going around. I just am one of those people who doesn't do a whole lot of rereads.
Yeah.
So,
By the way, people who are watching,
mhm.
give us recommendations or ideas, or you can tell me as we go through these books, which ones you think I would like the best as we start here too. You can be part of this process too.
Yeah. All right. The next risky one is going to be maybe surprising for you. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Um, I'm Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martin
It's in
is
my risky pile.
it is in the risky pile. So I have to tell you, I sent it to you because it is a modern classic.
Yeah.
And I really felt like if you're
Yeah.
going to have an opinion on modern books, it's not just because of the Hugo Award, it's because it is well loved for a reason. It does this world building of this Byzantine Aztec empire together in such a unique way. And there is some callbacks to like vintage science fiction in that it's presented in a way where we're following an ambassador from a tiny little small colony to this big empire, and it's big and overwhelming. And so she's traveling there to become this ambassador, but she has to hold secrets against them and from them. We also have to investigate the death of her predecessor under very sketchy circumstances. And on top of that, we're learning this entire new culture and language in the future. And so it's a really wonderful setup, but it has a lot of, I'm gonna call a couple of plot conveniences.
Mm.
I'm also gonna say that it is a female on female relationship, and some of the more forward moving political agendas present in this story.
That certainly doesn't bother me. What actually fascinated me the most was the references that some people would make that it was an Aztec type empire, and
Mhm.
some of the parallels that were drawn between that. I find that fascinating. But it's one of those dense world building books, it looks like to me, and lots of politics involved.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
she's an ambassador, so there's a lot of politics. What's really unique is the Arcady Martin, who I have met in real life once
Ah,
at a conference, the Hugos, actually. She is a city planner by trade, and she has it's either a master's or a PhD in Byzantine empires.
wow.
So she really knows her stuff, and you can really see how well she knows her stuff. The politics are all conducted around the sing-song poetry that you have to be able to like converse in, and they have double meanings and things like that. I mean, she spent like a lot of time on this, and if you're somebody who really likes prose, wordplay, or you just like really can appreciate that kind of world building, it is unlike anything else you have ever read. I can guarantee that.
Well, you're just convincing me to move that one up a little bit, in my opinion. One of the things that I also noticed is I think that Arcady Martin is a pseudonym, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Not that we need to know the real name. It's just that
I think it's available online. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I will say I liked the second book, but it was just a little bit less. Because
do I need to read the second book?
No, I don't think you do.
Okay. I mean, I often actually do stop at the first book, even in trilogies sometimes, but if it's necessary or if it deepens the book in significant ways, I like that. I don't like it if it cheapens the first book, though.
Right.
That really bothers me.
Yeah, it does not do that.
Yeah.
It does continue the story, and it is the same characters and things like that. I just think that the magic of the first book was this world and getting to know it, and this murder mystery and all of the things that are going on in the story that are not as new, right, in the second book. So
right. Yeah, you can't repeat the introduction or the magic of seeing something for the first time.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I also had Delta V by Daniel Suarez as a risky book.
I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well,
I had one more, but we can talk about that afterwards once you're through your risky books.
Okay. Well, the reason why I put this in the risky book pile is this is a little bit of a sci-fi thriller. I would almost call Daniel Suarez a little bit of an inheritor of Michael Crichton style stories, because it is fast paced. There's a lot of stuff going on all at one time, but it's not just superficial. He does have really interesting big ideas. The one in this one is actually all related to economics. And I learned so much about economics from this book. Like, not in high school, not in college, from this book.
I wouldn't have guessed there was economics on this one.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I think you can get most of this story from the front cover and from the interior flap. No spoilers here. But the story follows a fun, smarmy, kind of sarcastic character who gets kind of involved in this project by a billionaire who kind of reminds you of Elon Musk at times, who decides that due to economic reasons, he wants to send a small team to mine an asteroid. And in order to convince them that this is necessary, he does kind of go through this info dumpy explanation for several chapters, explaining to you why Earth's economy is going to fail without someone doing this. And it was really interesting because a lot of the economic concepts he's talking about, I did look up, and they're all legitimate, and it's very interesting to the point where I was wondering if the author is trying to make a case for this.
Probably.
So interesting fun facts there. But
as you know, my wife's an accountant, so maybe I'll have to pass some of this by her too.
Yeah, well, you'll have to see what you think. I didn't look into it too crazy deep because I was very into this story.
Yeah.
And this one was really fun and action-packed. You can absolutely view it as a standalone if you wish. But unlike Memory Called Empire, the second book was, in my opinion, maybe tenfold better than the first one.
That's amazing. Tenfold.
It really expands the story, and it what it does is it brings you back and it talks to you about consequences in a way that I think most books don't explore the consequences of what happened in the first book. And then it levels it up even more.
What's the title of it?
Critical Mass. Okay. And the third book is supposed to come out later this year, and I have already pre-ordered it. So.
When you talked about it doing the consequences of something, that reminded me of Ender's Game, and is it Speakers for the Dead? The
yes.
second one too takes that up way up too in terms of the consequences.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I would say it's okay if you want to stop at this book, but I would say that if you did enjoy it, and it's not too superficial for you, because I know you said you don't like some of the humor and the smarmy characters and that kind of stuff. That's why I put it in the risky bin for you.
I put it into I had two categories basically: books that I would read first, or could be faster reads, and then books that would be more challenging, that I'd have to be in the right mood to really tackle them. And so that one was one where I thought it was going to be a fast read, that it could be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's definitely a fast read if you don't mind that. I just wasn't sure if you would like it as much because of the smarmy characters, and I thought maybe you were going to say this is too superficial, Whitney.
We'll have to see how swarmy they are.
Yeah. And then the last one that I think is going to be a risky category, you probably know which one this is going to be, and that's going to be Embassy Town by China Miéville. Yes.
That was the last one that was in my category too.
Yeah. So what you have to know about this one is China Miéville is just so unlike any other author. And I would agree with you that it depends on your mood. So I would tell you that if you read the first couple of chapters, maybe even the first, I would say you have to go a little bit further than that. Maybe the first 8 chapters, and you just weren't into it, I would say pause it and wait. This is the most dark, the most depressing book, not only in this list, but maybe on my shelves.
Ooh, and you have The Road on your shelf, don't you?
I do not have The Road.
Oh, okay.
I don't have The Road. I haven't read it. I need to,
okay.
But yes, Embassy Town is a book where I finished it and I just felt absolutely disgusted, like humans ruin everything. That's what I felt like at the end of this book. However, it has one of the most clever, truly alien cultures that I've ever encountered. And it's not a first contact. Humans have been encountering these aliens for a long time. But they're just making some breakthroughs in the alien language finally in this book. So Embassy Town, they're trying to contact this alien group, and they're finally making some headway. And what he does with language in this book is intriguing and fascinating. And I had to pause and go back like 4 chapters and reread those 4 chapters again. Like, it's definitely a dense book, and definitely one that is really dark and heavy.
That's where I wasn't surprised that we had Ursula K. Le Guin saying it was a fully achieved work of art. I could see her really appreciating that.
Yes. Well, I will tell you that since I've read Embassy Town, I think about it like almost on a weekly basis.
Wow.
And I honestly have to say that it is in, and it has only gone up in my esteem over time. It is in my top 10 best science fiction books I've ever read of all time, forever, because I just can't get those ideas out of my head.
All right, it's up at the top here right now, and we'll see if I keep it there.
Yeah. So, but you got to be in that mood, right? You got to be ready to be depressed. I'm not talking like crying depressed. I'm talking like, I wish I wasn't human depressed.
How about to comprehend it? Is it easier to comprehend, or is it a challenge as well?
I think it's easy to comprehend in the same way that, like, it's probably one step up from Dawn, like just a little bit more complicated, but it's
Dawn
like so
easy.
Emotionally heavy that you're like, I need a break. Like, I need to go get a snack. I need to wait. Like,
all right.
Yeah.
I hear that China Miéville's books are all quite different from each other as well.
They very much are. Everything that he writes is very different than the next one. So just because you like one doesn't mean you'll like another one. Which is something that I really like about authors. I mean, your voice is very different. This is the most sci-fi that he's ever written. And I think it's because it's about language.
Who is it? Delaney, Babel 17, right?
Yes.
That's the language book too.
It is a language book. As a matter of fact, I have a video about language books coming up.
Cool.
Yeah. But, okay, so those are all the ones I had as risky.
And I've got 5 sitting here now that I thought were on the more readable end of the scale.
Okay, well, why don't you do yours next, and then I can kind of talk about them.
All right. Well, I have them in sort of an order here.
Go ahead.
But what I'll say is it can be easily interchangeable, but I tried to put them into an order. So maybe I should go from 5 to 1, doing it
Okay.
that way.
Okay. Sure.
Here we go.
Mhm.
So Generation Ship by Michael Mamet. I
Mm.
haven't read Michael Mamet. I
Mhm.
actually don't really know anything about him. I know that he has quite a few books out there, and it's a very, a little bit of a chunky kind of book, but it appears to be more the story of the Generation Ship, what happens inside the ship before they even reach a planet. And they will reach a planet, but the uh, the characters and the power struggles within the ship seem to be what is indicated, at least in the blurbs about it, that is interesting. And I'm a sucker for Generation Ship stories, so this one definitely seemed to be something that I would like to get into. I have no idea what Michael Mamet's writing style is like,
Mhm.
but maybe you can tell me more.
Well, this one is going to be pretty fast paced. It's an
Mhm.
easy book. It almost won one of my Wugos,
Ah,
so I can tell you
so
that.
it's right up there. Okay.
Um, Michael Mamet is a gentleman who usually writes military sci-fi. And in my variety pack that I was going to send you, I was looking for a um, really good military sci-fi book to send you,
Hmm.
but I ended up exchanging it for this one because it is more typical space generation ship. But he takes this trope that we've all seen and done many times, and he adds this area of freshness to it. Because what happens is we're following the generation ship right before it gets to the planet. And it's how human anticipation of getting to this planet and wanting to know we're, after multiple generations, we're finally almost there. I think they're just a couple months out. And um, things start going crazy because of human anticipation. They start having riots. They start not wanting to do the rules. They start demanding answers. So we're following a politician who's trying to keep everything together. We're trying to follow a scientist who's trying to get the answers of, is this planet really going to be as habitable as we were promised? But we're just a little too far out to know exactly. And then we also follow this undercurrent, I'm going to say, like, team of like hackers who kind of provide information to both. And you get to kind of see how all of these things are coming together on this generation ship right before landing, and how things can so easily fall apart. It's
Oh, yeah.
almost a book about sociology, and it's
Hmm.
very intriguing. I really had a great time with it.
When you go to sociology, that is something I think that I also am discovering I enjoy in books is um, the makeup of a society and what makes it run, and what uh, what are the pressure points within a society too.
I will tell you that I think the ending was a slight disappointment for me. But this is a book that I was about the ideas and the journey
Mhm.
just a little bit more. And I am a big endings person. It's not a terrible end. It's just not as good as it could have been.
That's one of the toughest things for an author to do, I think, is to end a book well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. So
All right. The next one that I have here, I've been looking for this one for a long time. I had told you about that, and I was very happy that you found it for me, is Werner Vinge's Rainbow's End. Very different from the books we were just talking about, A Fire Upon the Deep, and his other ones from the 1990s. We read one from the 1980s, which didn't quite meet up to the level of his 1990s writing. This one won a Hugo Award, and it appears to be a bit of a cyberpunk almost style novel. And Vinci was a professor in San Diego, I believe, in computer programming in the 80s at least.
mhm.
And so definitely probably has some background or chops to be able to write this. And it just sounds very different from his other work. So I'm very curious now that I've seen
Mhm.
uh, more of his rookie output,
Mhm.
which had some problems, seeing some really good novels in the 90s, and this is 2006. Very curious to see how he's progressed.
Yes. Well, I will tell you that selling that book as a cyberpunk book is doing it an injustice.
Okay.
Because it has some touches of a hacker. I don't know if you saw on the front cover, there's a little rabbit there.
Yes.
The
I'll
rabbit.
put it up here again.
Yes. The rabbit is the hacker character, and it plays a very pivotal role. But we never know who the identity of this rabbit is, or
is it an actual rabbit, or
it's a digital rabbit. That's that's the identity of the hacker.
Right. Okay.
So we never get perspectives. We might have like one or two perspectives of them, actually, now that I'm saying that. But the story itself is led by a main character, Richard Gu, who's an Asian man who, I'm going to be honest, especially in the first couple chapters, is not a good person. And he actually, he was a big person in his era, but he wasn't very kind to his family. And he rapidly, in the first 2 chapters, descends into Alzheimer's. And then all of a sudden wakes up from Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And it turns out that we are now able to cure Alzheimer's. And not only are we able to do that, we can restore his mind as well as his body. What's really unique about this book, that is a theme I haven't seen done this overtly before, is we really talk about Gu's struggle to find a place in this new society, because it's not about his mind anymore, and it's not about his young body or his old body. It's about finding your place in an increasingly digital world that doesn't find your knowledge useful anymore.
It's 20 years into the future, in that year of 2025.
Right. And it was just a really interesting style story of like this struggle that I think a lot of people can find some commonalities for, of where do we find our place in this world of digitalization, and the fight that he kind of chooses to get involved with is some of his old friends in a college library that has decided they are going to burn all the books and go digital only. And I'm not talking Kindle digital, I'm talking virtual VR books. And so that's kind of the place that they decide to choose and fight their stand. But little do they know, there's already a hacker and other things that are happening behind the scenes that get involved and make this a lot more complicated than expected. It kind of reads a little bit thriller, but and there are some plot conveniences in this. I don't think it is as strong as Fire Upon the Deep or Deepness in the Sky. But I did think that the theme was so strongly well done that I was able to look over some of the plot conveniences.
Well, you know, it's something that, I mean, Werner Vinge at this point was getting to be an older gentleman. When I say older gentleman, probably my age. And I think that sometimes you look at your place in society and see society changing all around you and technology changing all around you. And so it's very interesting. I think it would be very interesting to see the bit of a character study he has for the name is GNU. GNU is how you say it, or
I thought it's just GU, isn't it?
On the back. Oh, you're right. It's GU.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know.
Goo.
Whatever we will call him.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested to see how that develops in his character. And can you change when you've been in a coma or Alzheimer's or those sort of things? Does your character change? Because you told me he was a really despicable kind of a person to start with. And so I'm very curious to see how that character potentially changes and grows as well.
Yes. Well, I'm going to be very intrigued on your opinion on this book, whether it's good or bad. Same for all of these. I
hear there's a lot of debate about that. This book is not well loved by some.
That's correct. Yeah. And I have to say their complaints are valid. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's not, going to be a top 10 book for me, but I do think that the themes were strong enough that I kind of understand why the Hugo voters gave it something. I also heard rumor mill that it was said that he was dying during that year and that they kind of gave him a pity vote. I don't know how true that was. I was not there. I don't know. but that is some
Almost a
rumor.
lifetime achievement award, right?
Right.
Right. That happens even in movies and all sorts of awards.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
All right, number 3. This one, I looked at it and I'm not sure if I can really figure out exactly what it is, but I sort of flipped through it a little bit too, and just to see how there's different characters and their stories and they're coming together. It looks to me, I call sometimes these braided plots, when you have multiple plots going on, but they kind of come together into a cohesive unit at the end. And there's another surprise when I was looking at the rig, and you were surprised as well, because I said, hey, did you know when you sent it to me that it is a copy that Roger Levy signed?
I am very jealous. No, I did not know that.
So I don't really have a grasp of this, but as I said, braided plots are plots. I think that that's an area that I kind of like too. And a lot of more contemporary thrillers try to do that. This looks fascinating. There's a lot of different ones in here, isn't there?
There are. So I have to say, so first of all, hold it while you hold up this cover.
Sure.
One of the biggest things that I think is very sad about this is, while it's a pretty cover, for me, it gives off YA vibes, like young adult vibes.
I agree.
And it really doesn't tell you what
the way this looks up here, I think especially. Kind of looks like a robot that comes from the Friendly or what was that movie in the 90s with the robot and the boy? Iron Giant. It gives me Iron Giant vibes.
Yeah, I think this is one of those covers that probably Levy, if we could talk to him, would be really upset with his cover, because I think it holds people back from how intense this book really is. So let me tell you a little bit about it, and also why I sent it to you.
Right here we see at least 4 different kind of areas that we're exploring.
They didn't do a good job of like really telling you what it's about.
No, I didn't think so.
They did not. So I'm going to start with saying that there are 3 main point of view perspectives, but there are other people that we get perspectives from, which can make this story a little bit more opaque sometimes. But we have a future world in which death has been solved. Like, we can bring you back from death if you have died from an accident. And the problem with this is it's such an expensive thing to do that they have a community and a society where you have something called the lottery, which is almost like a social media system where you can scroll through the people that are eligible to be revived that year or week or whatever, and everybody in the world gets a vote, and only the people who get enough votes get revived from death.
Survivor in the future.
And social media in reverse. And so much, I mean, there's so much about this, right? And the profiles that you get to see are literal views of their life that are being recorded, so nobody can hide anything. So you get to see really what kind of a person this person was. And so we're following one perspective of a woman who's a journalist who goes around and takes people's stories down to publish them as potential options for revival. In the meantime, we're also following a tech genius kid. It feels a little bit hacker, but it's almost also a very interesting situation, because this gentleman takes after his father, and their family is kind of captured, if you will, or like held hostage by a multi-empire, multiple planet mob boss who is using some of these technological advancements to gain more and more territory, if you will. And they're not a good person, but these tech nerds are like really not able to fight back because of the hold that this mob boss has over them. Okay, then we follow a couple of various characters who kind of provide perspective to the outside world, so you can see how the people that we're following are affecting the general population. And as we get closer and closer, we start seeing that there is a AI character that is telling the journalist what to do. And it looks like there may or may not be some contact with the tech genius as well. We don't know. And slowly but surely, you start realizing that these stories are on even different timelines, but they're going to come together. And it's epic. Very epic. Woo! Did not expect it. It's epic.
And even just trying to read and understand what was back here, that I already put it up as number 3, is I realized I think that it is something epic. That this is, you were talking about, you love endings. It sounded like this one really came together in a way that perhaps redefined the whole book itself.
It definitely didn't redefine it, but it came together very well. I'm very much an end reader, and it did very good job. However, it wasn't what I expected. It was so different. It asked a lot of questions in here, like intermittently, about not just can we, but should we? There's a lot of themes on technology in here that are like, maybe we should be looking at people's lives instead of the technology. And I mean, there's just a lot of heavy-handed themes and subtle themes that are in this story. This is his only sci-fi book, I believe.
Really?
I think so.
It's 615 pages long, but my guess is that it's actually a page turner.
It is quite a page turner, especially if you can give it more than a couple of chapters.
Okay.
You have to meet all the characters before you really get a handle on what's happening. Once you start realizing that timelines are a little not the same, that's when things clicked for me.
Okay.
But I was really surprised because I think the cover does it such an injustice.
We'll have to see if they put it out again with another cover. It's sad when a science fiction book gets a bad cover to start with, because sometimes that can influence whether you see that book again in 10, 20 years.
Yep.
I mean, I like to do posts where we get to vote on different covers, or vote on the cover that you enjoy the most. And I have 4 choices, and it's often some of the older ones that win.
That's true, but your audience tends to be the older folks who enjoy the older covers, right?
I agree. That's true. Self-fulfilling prophecy.
I always vote in your poll, and my answer is always the wrong one. Like it never wins.
There has been a couple that I definitely think that the more contemporary one wins. But
I did have to tell you, The Rig is a book that to this date I have never sent anyone except for you.
Okay.
And it's because I liked that it was a little bit more accessible. I thought that it was fun because it had that entertainment value, but it has those deeper themes and questions that you were asking for. It doesn't depend on things like satire or any of that psychedelic weirdness that you asked me not for. And I feel like it has this quality of like mystery or a vintage sort of style of how the stories come together, because it's not just like, oh, here's one perspective and here's one perspective and then they meet and that's how they come together. This is way more complicated than that. And so I'm hoping that I'm right and that you'll like it, but I will tell you that I had 3 other options for this book place.
Okay. Well, I put it up to 3 right away, just based on what little I knew, even with that cover. So,
can I tell you the 2 other books?
Why don't you? Yeah.
So the first one is called Ymir, and that's spelled Y-M-I-R.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that book.
Yes, this is a relatively unknown book. Also recommended to me by the same person who recommended the Rig to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually uploading.
Yeah, you're finding the picture?
A cover of this right now.
We'll get it on the screen right away when you have it.
Yes. So, yep, here it is.
There we go. Sci-fi thriller at its Ice cold, coolest, propulsive, terrifying,
Yes.
and human.
So I would say that this is, I would almost pitch it as a cyberpunk light story that is very inspired by Beowulf in the future. It is really just super unique. It starts with a gentleman who his body is swirling inside a capsule, and he has to be pulled out and warmed up, and his consciousness has to be inserted back into it. And you discover that Ymir is the planet that he comes from, and he has kind of been rejected from his home planet for various reasons that I won't reveal. But he has to go back home for this epic adventure, essentially, very similar to Beowulf, but it's in the future, and there's so many interesting plot points in this story. However, this one is one of the few books that I could not get to you in Canada for some reason, and is one that, because it's a little bit on that edge of cyberpunk and also inspired by classic literature, I thought it was riskier to send you this book than it would be to send you The Rig.
Okay.
And so I decided to go ahead and send you The Rig instead.
Well, I'll still keep my eye open for this. I mean, I always love discovering new books to watch for when I go to used book sales.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe at some point, if we decide that we want to try it out, it's one that you can definitely check out for the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you had another one that was, you said
yes.
two, right?
So this one is supposed to be the slot that I'm giving to some of the politics. There's a lot of sci-fi that deals with politics. But in particular, I really wanted to send you one that had some inner workings of politics.
Okay.
And so there's some covers that I absolutely hate. So I don't want those to be the ones that I upload for you.
Yeah, I understand. We're talking about books we want people to read, or
exactly.
we want to entice me to read.
Yes. So the other book was Ministry for the Future by Kim Stanley Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people who watch my channel know that I utterly abhor the Mars trilogy. Like, I would burn those books. I would go back in time to prevent Kim Stanley Robinson from writing them. That's how much I hated them. Okay.
I'm not as bad as you. I've read way back when it came out. I read the first one, Red Mars.
Yeah.
And just found it utterly dull.
Yep.
At that point.
Well, I think you would have learned to hate it if you, like me, had decided that you were going to sign up to do all of the Hugo winners, and so you were forced to then read both Green Mars and Blue Mars, and you couldn't get out of it. And I was ready to rip it page by page and burn it slowly. I mean, I
have to say, I liked his debut novel though, in the 1980s.
Icehenge. Loved it.
Not Icehenge.
Oh,
maybe it came out before that, but it's one of the first in the Gold Coast trilogy.
Oh, was that the Red California or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. I haven't read those, but I can tell you that Kim Stanley Robinson has always a mixed bag for me.
But Icehenge you would recommend?
I really liked Icehenge.
Because I do have that one sitting up here. So
okay. I liked Icehenge. It wasn't like his best work, but it's not bad by any means.
Okay.
But this book, it's my favorite of his so far. Let's say that. Mm-hmm. The failings that he has in this book end up as strengths, which is what makes it so good. Okay, so hear me out. Yeah. The Ministry for the Future is about a true governmental ministry that the UN and NATO decides that every government in the world needs to have in their government system. And this ministry's entire job is to make sure that all future laws and all current laws are going to be set up well for our future. Okay. So that means that, like, you know, if we're passing a bunch of rules and we're saying, yeah, screw the system, we'll have a bunch of CO2 emissions, the Ministry for the Future comes in and they ex-nay that. Because we want a planet that is going to be able to be sustainable for our future generations. Now, as all things go in the governments, especially our government system, they have great intention, but they don't actually end up having a whole lot of claws. And that's what happens to the Ministry for the Future in most of the governments. And so we end up with this small team of people who were so hopeful when this started, and then they kind of see it fail, if that makes sense. And they start to be wondering, how is it that we could actually make people care about what the future looks like? And the book takes off from there. And let's just say it's not all legal. And there's a lot of like trials and tribulations throughout the story. If I could give it one big negative, I would say that it is a little bit naive in its ending. But it's a hopeful story.
And it's one of his most recent too, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I really liked seeing how politics really works take a big role in this story, and how the system, not just America, but many governmental systems are just broken. And here's why, and you know, here's how this works, and everything is about funding and all this other stuff. So it was very politically heavy. However, this book was at least a good $20 more than the rig. And I don't know why it's so expensive to get that shipped to you, probably because it's a big fat book. So I decided that even though the rig is a big fat book, it wasn't as expensive. So the rig it was.
There we go. Well, you know what? You're still helping me add to my watch for list in terms of looking for books in the future. And by the way, the title of his first book, at least the first, I believe it's his premiere novel, because it was in the Ace Science Fiction Specials Series 3, which was all first novels. It was called The Wild Shore. And it's part of the Gold Coast trilogy about California in the near future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to give that one a try. Like I said, I like a lot of his stuff, and then it turns out I don't like a lot of his stuff.
Well, the next one, I've heard from so many of my friends who read contemporary fiction that this is a great book, and it just came out last year. I'll add to the stage here the one that was from the UK, I believe you said. And I have, so which version is this then? Is this a US version?
That's a US cover, yes.
Yeah, which I still think is a great cover too. But I think you said that you prefer this cover here. Let me see if I can change back to it.
Yeah, I definitely prefer that cover. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love, is it Children of the Earth?
Children of Time?
Children of Time. I love Children of Time. I read the second one. I think that one was about octopus.
Yes.
Octopi. And not so much. And I didn't actually even go to the third one. Yeah. I remember trying also one more. Is there one that starts with shards?
Shards of Earth? Shards of Earth?
Shards of Earth? Yeah, I remember reading the first one of that and not going on with it either. So I'm very interested to see. I've heard this is one of, he writes a lot of books, and I've heard that this is one of his best.
Yes.
Why did you think I would like this one? What's it about?
So first of all, if we're going to do modern authors, we have to do an Adrian Tchaikovsky. And obviously, if you didn't already read Children of Time, that would have been the book I sent you, because I do think that is his best book. It is a modern classic, unquestioned.
I agree. Yeah.
However, I did not like the second or the third book as much. And I even just bought the fourth book, but I'm hesitant to read it because I didn't like the other ones, really. I think he realized he had something good and tried to recycle it and just didn't capture the magic again. However, I think that his second and third best books, like if you could only read 3 of his books so far, would be Children of Time #1, and then it would either be Dogs of War or Shroud.
And Dogs of War, I do want to get someday too.
Yes. Well, Dogs of War is one of his best character portrayals. It is super character heavy, which is ironic because it's about a intelligent dog.
Mm-hmm.
But I cried. It is one of the few science fiction books that made me cry. I don't say that lightly. It was just very touching. It was very good. It brought up a lot of questions. And then the subsequent books in the series were about the other sentient, or I should say sapient creatures that were in the dog's team, because they created...
There's the bee speaker or something like that. Bee speaker.
Yeah. Well, bee speaker is the
and there's third a bear.
Book. Bear head is the second book.
Right.
So there's bees, a bear, there's a lizard, and then there's the dog.
Okay. So there's 5 books?
There's 4 books.
4 books.
Well,
okay.
And there's not the 4th one.
Oh, it's not out yet?
No, it's not going to exist.
Oh, okay. Anyways, we're talking about Shroud now.
Spoilers. We can't really talk about that, but I can tell you that the other books in that series, I think I liked even more every book subsequently, because it made the scope of the story bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's good to hear.
I appreciate that about the story. But I do think the B one is the last one, I think. Okay. Shroud, however, is a standalone. So already I like that a little bit more. So that way, if you don't want to move on, you don't have to. And I think that as somebody who is very prolific from him, I wish his editors did a better job forcing him to go through things and fix things a little bit better. I don't think that he writes bad books, but I do think that if he just spent a little bit more time, a lot of these books could have really been something. However, Shroud, I don't think suffers from feeling like it went too fast or like it needed more editing. I didn't feel like he had too many scenes in here that were overmuch or could have been deleted. And Shroud kind of reminded me of it's 2-person perspective alternating from humans and an alien. And ultimately kind of about how if you have a truly alien, you may not, like, communication may not be possible.
Right.
And that's really kind of what the story is about. But it's also a survival story, because these humans have to go investigate this planet that for some reason or another we can't see below the atmosphere with any of our tools for whatever reason. So of course, big companies want to go see that, and they want to know what it is. So they send this small team down to investigate, to just see what's there. And of course, it's worse than they thought, and they crash land, as you can see from this front cover.
Yeah. And so the shroud is that what's surrounding that planet would be the shroud.
Correct. Yeah. And then we have to have this incredibly hostile, almost incomprehensible planet that they must survive on. And inevitably they encounter this alien type creature, and they have to try to figure out if they're friends or enemies, or if they're going to survive or not, or is there even like a third option, which there might be.
Okay.
So it was a very intriguing style story that I really enjoyed.
Have you ever read Stanislav Lem?
I have.
You have? Would this remind you of something that he would do in terms of
potentially
impossible to really communicate with something truly alien?
No, because okay, so I got to be honest.
Yep, go for it.
I did not like Solaris. I did not like it. I thought that he tried so hard, and there's clearly some kind of message there, and I just can't work that hard in the books to try to figure out WTF is happening here. Like, why am I reading this? I don't understand. And I get so upset about it that I just didn't like it.
See, I like Invincible and Fiasco better, and they still have some of those themes, but especially Invincible is just a more straightforward, hard science fiction.
I loved Invincible.
Mystery planet adventure.
Yeah, loved Invincible, and what a clever title for the story, right?
Yes. Yeah,
No,
that's the name of the
love
ship,
Invincible.
but it's more than that.
Yeah. I thought that one was very good. I actually own. I actually liked Futurological Congress.
Haven't read that one yet.
It's a little tiny novella, fantastic. You're gonna hate it. It's satire. You should probably.
That's why I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, you should probably not read it. But man, if you're gonna do satire, that's the way to do it. And then,
I like Lem enough that I will someday read that one.
I also own the book Eden.
Which one?
Eden.
I don't think I know that one.
Yeah, well, it's also supposed to be about a alien that is so alien we can't contact. I mean,
Right.
A lot of his books are kind of like that. So
yeah.
I'm just very intrigued to read more of his stuff to see if it was just Solaris that I didn't like.
You know what? I understand. I would rate those other two books I just mentioned ahead of Solaris for me. Solaris is a very slow burn, and it goes a little bit too much into an almost dream-like hallucinatory areas. It's a little bit weird, and
then you never get satisfaction from the end. So
yeah,
pass for me. Pass.
It's kind of like it sets a mood, an uneasy, almost science fiction horror mood to it, and that's it. It doesn't really go too far.
Yeah.
I have a big long video with a gentleman, Dr. Daniel. Oh, I forgot his name. I'll have to put it down here. We talked about Solaris, and he was very good to talk to about it because he's a university professor. And if you are interested, I'll put a link in the description below too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Rochter, he calls himself.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad that there are books out there for university classes, and maybe I would enjoy them more if I had a university class to discuss it, but
right.
I didn't, and I just didn't like it. So
Daniel Otto Petersen is his name.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
And he does have a channel if you want to look him up, but I'll put the video down there and I'll have a link to it. Should we get to the one that I thought perhaps I'd start with first?
Yes, please
do. Do you remember what's missing?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Elizabeth Moon, Remnant Population. I just happened to pick the oldest book, even though I didn't realize it was the oldest book.
I knew that was going to happen.
And Elizabeth Moon, I've read some military fiction, I believe, from her back in the 80s.
Yes.
Like a long time ago. Yes. I haven't read anything by her for a long time.
Yes.
And besides having a positive feeling for her writing, I also, and it's her books I thought were longer, and I like books that are a little bit shorter. I found that the description of this one of an older woman who people are, she's living on another world from Earth, and people are being moved off of there by, I'm not sure if it's corporation or government.
It's a corporation.
Pardon me?
It's a corporation.
So she decides that she's going to stay, and so she's going to be the only person on this world, and it kind of plays to that introvert side of an older person wanting to just live their life in the way they can live it, and then she finds out that she's not alone, and that there's something alien here, and perhaps that she does need others. That's what I take from the description of it, and that's what attracted me to it. It actually reminded me of another book that I've read, very different book, but hit me in the same way, was a Stephen King book called Duma Key, where a man has an injury, a brain injury, and he actually loses his family in a divorce, and he's trying to recover, and he moves to the Keys in Florida and tries to regain his life in a very introverted way, where he is exploring art and eventually makes some connections with some people on the Key. And of course, it's Stephen King, so it goes into some areas that are a little bit supernatural. But once again, it's a person who decides very much that they want to shrink their life not shrink it. They live in a vast area all by themselves. And sometimes we have novels that are the last man on earth type of novels, I Am Legend, or those sort of books. This one's a choice that they choose to be the last person on this planet. And so anyways, I found that attractive in terms of interesting to read, at least at this point, at this time.
Well, I would have picked this one as the one that I think that you should read the most.
Great. Okay, we agree.
So I do think that this one is the one that you are most, I hope you're most likely to love, because when I was going back and forth with some books that you did or didn't have, this is the book that was the most egregious that was left out from your collection. She did write a lot of military sci-fi, and her military sci-fi is fun and it's interesting, but it's a lot of pulp. There's a lot of like action adventure, superficial fun battles and things like that. And she does have some themes in it, but Remnant Population is a huge, just 180 from exactly what she's written before. And there's something magically special about the story that shouldn't be lost. Because this old woman is like 80 or 90, and you do get to see her interact with her family. You get to see the future isn't something that is quite dystopian, but it's not something that she super loves either. And she just decides that her family doesn't need her anymore. And because they're leaving this planet that they've been trying to colonize, they've discovered that it's not as financially viable as they wanted it to be. She decides that she wants to live her life the way that she wants to live it. And she probably doesn't have that many years left, but she is so happy to let them go on. And she's not even going to be expected to live through the cryogenic sleep to the next place. So why would she do this? So she stows away on the planet, kind of the opposite than stowing away on a spaceship.
Oh, so they don't know that she's not there?
They don't know.
Okay.
So she stows away, and she has like so much fun. And it's really surprising because it feels like a John Wyndham pacing in that it's a slow burn. And yet like she's doing daily things, and yet I'm still fascinated. I just can't put the book down. And we're just doing daily things. And she is one of the most relatable characters. I absolutely adore her. And I felt so much hope in this story, because even when she thinks, I'm just going to have fun with my last several years and it's going to be all right, and nobody will know I'm here, and I won't hurt anything, so my family won't even notice I'm gone. And then some of her greatest achievements aren't until this happens. And you have to be true to yourself to really find who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. And it may not be until your 80s and 90s. And I don't know. I got such a vibes of hope from this story that are unlike so many of the other books that you can read. And it's just such an intimate portrayal of this character that even if you don't love it, I feel like you have to have read it to be able to be like, yes, I'm a true sci-fi collector.
I love that we both chose it as the top book. That just confirms that I'm really looking forward to reading this. I will read this. I'm just finishing a book right now, but I will read this next. And so it won't be too long for people to wait before they get my thoughts on it.
Well, Richard, I do want to make sure to reiterate to you in a public setting that you don't have to like or even love any of these books. Please be honest with your reviews, and it's just always a guess, my best guess for some of your tastes. And, we always have evolving tastes. So please know that if you don't like a book, it's okay. I don't take offense, and I appreciate that you're willing to try them.
And, it'll be a while. I'm not going to read these all, there'll be other books I'm going to be reading. I'm imagining in a year or maybe a little bit more, I might go through all these, and it'll be very interesting to see what your batting average is. Maybe we have to have you back once I finish the very last one, and we can chat again about this.
Yeah, well, it would be very fun to kind of to hear the final outcomes of what you end up liking and not. And definitely, I understand that they're not all vintage, and it's quite the smattering of modern stories. So don't let them turn you off to modern stories if we happen to have different taste.
That's completely fine. Yourself, and we mentioned Rachel before,
Mhm,
of Shades of Orange, a great channel,
mhm.
fellow Canadian, and some of your channels helped me discover some of the newer books that are out there, simply because I focus so much on those older books that
Mhm.
I'd rather try ones that are well regarded
Mhm.
than just pick up any new book. And so I appreciate you recommending these to me.
Well, Richard, I'd have to say the same thing right back at you. I think a lot of people who are looking for those hopeful vintage sci-fi reads, are trying to pick up books that are well regarded. So I will tell you that not just your end of the year like top tens, but you should consider as a challenge doing some hidden gems or places to start for people who maybe are just trying to get into vintage sci-fi, because I feel like your opinions are very well reasoned and very thought out, and I think people would really appreciate having that. Um,
Well, as we were talking about, this was my third year. One
mhm,
of the things I was thinking about when I started this channel is I want to be careful about putting top tens out there besides top tens of what I've read in a year, because I wanted to get as wide a base of authors and some of their best books as I could
mhm,
before I would start talking about here's the hidden gems you should find, or these are the best post-apocalyptic books, or I want to be careful. And I knew that I'm going to just keep reading. I mean, part of my retirement, this is a project in my retirement, is just to read and enjoy it and to share it with people. And so I'm starting to get to a point where I think that there are some things I have to say in terms of helping people or guiding people to some good stuff, especially there, considering, as you were just considering, my likes and tastes. People potentially, we talk about, if you like this book, you will like this book. I
mhm,
think as I start to read some of these, if you like this contemporary author,
mhm.
perhaps you'd like this vintage author. And I think that that would be an area that I'd like to start in.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely encourage you to do that, because everyone knows that you cannot read every book out
Oh,
there,
yeah.
which is exactly what I did with my Wugos, which gave me true chest pain, I must tell you, um, because the number of books in some of the years is embarrassing, because I realize I've only read two of the books that were published this year, or the two of the books that were published, 1954. And
Yeah.
is that embarrassing? Yes, but I'm honestly never going to get them all done.
Yeah.
So if I don't do it now, it may never happen.
Well, and
So
you read like 65 books or 70 books just to get the Hugos in,
I
never
know,
mind the ones that were competitive with those Hugos.
correct.
Yeah.
So that's why I've just decided that it's okay that I haven't read all of them,
Yeah.
and it'll be all right.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm very impressed, especially because you really have delved into the 50s, 60s, and 70s with these Hugo winners and some of the ones who came in close too. And so we definitely you and I have a common ground in terms of talking about some of those books.
and we'll have to keep doing more. We'll have to get
Yeah.
our buddy readers to read some more.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
And if you don't know, when we talk about buddy readers, we just put out a video, a debrief of the last book that we read,
Mockingbird.
Mockingbird, which was a reread for me by Walter Tevis. So you can catch up with Bart of Bart's Book Space and Sam of Sam Not So Wise, who needs you to subscribe. So he gets to his 2,000 subscriber. He's so close. And then Whitney, of course, here of Secret Sauce of Storycraft.
Mhm.
Thank you again, Whitney, for these books.
Absolutely.
This is the top of my ones that I knew I was going to read, and this is now the top of the ones when I want a challenging read. That's where
Ooh.
I end up right now.
All right. Well, I
So
expect some awesome reviews. I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to it. And I'll definitely mention this video when we do that, so that people, if they want to refer back to here, I think this is a great resource for people just talking about so many books too. So if you're like me and are not too sure what to read post 1995, here you go. Here are some books.
Yep, absolutely.
So thank you again. Anything that you want to mention for your channel coming up? I guess there's more Wugos, right?
Yes, I'm going to do 50s, 60s, and 70s Wugos, and then 80s and 90s Wugos. So,
and a reminder, Wugos is Whitney's Hugos. If Whitney was the one who decided what the Hugo should be.
That's right. Hugos, according to Whitney. Absolutely. Yeah. Which are, I'm sure, going to have unpopular opinions. So,
you're getting lots of comments on your last one, aren't you?
I really am. And those weren't even the controversial ones. Just wait till we get to the 70s. It's going to be bad.
Oh, good. I'm looking forward to it. That is good sometimes. All right. Thanks a lot, Whitney. And thanks to all of you. And Whitney, do you know what I say at the end of my videos? I go, until next time. Oh, that's okay.
Oh, no. I failed.
I'm going to prime you. It's keep reading.
Oh, okay.
So I'll give you the lead up, and you go and give it a good gusto. Until next time,
keep reading.
All right. Thank you very much.